Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss about APANA PRANA, the umbilical cord, the wisdom of Aitreya Upanishads. There are a lot of statements in this we will discuss as we proceed. And please look at this picture, true. Let me start with descent of prana, our goddess Aditi, our Kundalini, Antaratma, self, soul or otherwise. Helium-4 is synthesized in the core of the sun, is something which I have spoken about it. A fraction of helium-4 inert matter is released. This fraction of helium-4 becomes a human soul. And only with this particular soul, when there is in the fetus, that fetus has the potentiality of becoming custodian, guardian or Lok Palan of the world. And I am very clear, when prana and apana are together as one unit, that is apana prana. As a matter of fact, I always wondered, I always use apana prana, samana prana, prana, udana prana and vayana prana. I used to wonder why exactly I am using prana along with the rest of the five things. Now I can understand when both are together, only they form a beautiful concept of taking care of elimination and things like that. And that is what I am going to explain in this particular video. As I told you, the guardian, the wisdom of Aitreya Upanishad is Lok Palan, the person who is here to be the perfect human being for the good of the entire world, and that is what it has been created for. So from that statement, let me go to the next statement. Cosmic guardian is something which general perception is spontaneous creation of cosmic human being, which is not true. My perception, and Akhand Sutra says very clear, we are the creator creation of the God. That means there is something more in human beings which is not found in other living beings at all. We are the microcosmic representations of macrocosm. We are Pindand and Brahman together. We have evolved from mineral, plants and kingdom and animals, and we can experience everything within the human body. As a result, I would say the human body is the best chemistry laboratory or biochemistry laboratory where we can experience atoms, elements, molecules, compounds, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems and organs completely within the human body, and that is possible only when human body, Jivatma and Antaratma, Kundalini, Gayatri, Aditi are together as one unit, and that is what brings a person to be a cosmic consciousness. He will be interested in the benefit of the entire universe. Sanatana Dharma talks of Vishwa Kalyanam, means we should do wonderful for the entire world, not for one lot alone. Vasudev Kutumbam, and Vasudev Kutumbam has to have Atma, Kundalini, Aditi, Prana together as one, and that is the life breath in the human being which can make you the perfect human being. And anyone who is honest, truthful, perfect, non-violent, with all the purities of the human nature can be a guardian, not anybody else. Others will be doing something which is not as perfect as the human beings can capable of doing it. Now come to the Aitreya Upanishad, and I make it very clearly, Aitreya Upanishad is a representation or simplification of Rigved itself. Rigved talks about atom, element, molecules and others. All the 133 crore devatas, that means different atoms, elements, other things are mentioned in Rigved. But bringing all together as a perfect human being as one who can represent universal consciousness, divine within living self. And that is something which is very, very important. And from that, Aitreya Upanishad is graphic presentation of Rigved in a human form, how it was formed, created, evolved and come to the stage And that is what I want to everybody understand. Perfect anatomy, perfect physiology, perfect biochemistry, perfect psychology of the entire human being can only explain the entire universe. And there is a statement in Rig Veda in 10th verse itself. Even gods do not know what happened before the creation. But I can tell you from my experience, what was there before the creation, human being can know, provided they are in tune with universal consciousness, because all the gods and goddesses are there in a perfect human being, which is a cosmic Purusha, guardian, custodian, or Lok Palan. And with that concept, we are moving on to understand the beauty of this Aitreya Upanishad, how it has explained the concept of growth of the fetus and become the perfect as we move on. Now comes the first chapter, section 1. Before the creation, there was only Atma, the soul. Nothing else winked before the creation. It's a big statement. That means before human beings were created, or before the universe was created, there was only Atma, which I can call formless, omnipotent, omniscient thing, which can call Nirankar, Niragun, Brahman. And then how it became Sakar, Sargun, Brahman, and how it became Anubhav, Brahman is these things we have already spoken about Brahman. And these were the things were there before the creation took place. And nothing else moved, and that's the picture of Atma. The soul, Atma, Prana, Antaratma, Kundalini, all are the same thing. And I make it very clear. In a graphic presentation, as they're sleeping, they are in the 22 by 21 concept as a rising expansion or involution as such. But when they start evolving to higher and higher concentration, they are equivalent to 22 by 21, just like Shivling, which I have spoken about it. Sleeping is in the ratio of 22 by 21, and expansion evolving is 22 by 7, and that's the defined mathematics. And let's and that is the soul at that stage said, let us create the world and let's see things. So then everything has come from the soul, Atma, Prana, and everything is maintained by the soul. The soul which makes me realize the self and is the one who dissolves. The complete thing starts on soul, maintained by soul, is dissolved by soul, is very clear in the very statement in the first opening of Aitreya Upanishad. That exactly what Rigveda is talking about. Now come to the section 2, our first chapter. Soul created three worlds, Ambo, miniature and Maram. That means very clear. This concept of zero, which was Shunya, became one, and the one became three. That is the divine mathematics. You call Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, you call Saraswati, Mahalakshmi, Mahakali, or Tridevi, Trinity, all that. But there are three things which are very, very important here. The first thing which was called Ambo, Amba. That is heaven, the water. And this is where mathematics takes another shape. The perfect content of water in the universe, atmosphere, earth, human body and human cell is 61.8034% only. If that is maintained, it is like a Amrit and you will have no problem at all. I do know from the time I've grown in age, as I've crossed after 50, 60, particularly after 60, I do see the amount of water content in the periphery has reduced and it is not 61.8%. To maintain that, I have realized that I need to take water at regular interval to maintain. As a result, they're the best thinner or blood thinner. They can do wonders. But as you grow older, you got to regularly drink water in smaller quantities to maintain extracellular fluid. That is what is the statement in this. Moisture is the effulgence energy, the atmosphere which we have around the earth. There is water on top, there is this, and that water comes down, and there is solid earth element, and which is 38.1966%. This is the divine mathematics of Devyank, which is there in the very second verse itself. Now comes to the third verse. The soul thought there are three worlds. Now let me create the guardians Lok Palan, and that's what I'm saying. Lok Palan, to create a world for the whole thing. Soul wanted a particular product to be fantastic, and that's what the thought was. From water the soul drew forth the person. The person Lok Palan was from the water. Again, without water there is no creation at all. That is a beautiful statement. Everything needs water, with water, and moves with the water. So importance of water as the Amrit is very clear in Aitreya Upanishad. The soul gives the person an undefined shape. At that particular stage in the beginning, the soul had no shape. It was undefined, and that you can see in three forms together as such, and that is ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm as such of the zygote itself. That is the state from which the Lok Palan is going to be developed. Now there comes the fourth stage. The soul contemplated upon the person. The soul thought of 8 divinities like Durga. That means the soul should have 8 perceptions very clear. Are 8 aspects very near, are divinities within, like goddess Durga or Mata Vaishno Devi have 8 forms. That like a oxygen, and I make it very clear. 8 number makes very clear in mathematical design. You had 0 to start with, Atma, 1, 3, and now you have 8, and that's how the whole development of binary precision moves on. 1, 2, 4, 8. Now let's see what are the 8 divinities which resemble like Durga. The first divinity is a mouth, and speech emerges from the mouth, you can see. And I make it very clear, water, apart, taste, mouth, speech are one concept. For speech as well as smell, this water is absolutely required, otherwise you can't digest food. And Ayurveda makes it very clear, eat the food like water, drink the food. That means chew it so well that it's like a liquid, and that liquid should go in, not in the hard form. I think that is why the teeth which are given to the human being 32, they are primarily to make sure that food is basically like the water and is mixed with salivary gland, and which has alpha amylase to convert carbohydrate into food for the body, and it converts carbohydrate, particularly maltose, into glucose, glucose, and glucose, and that's it. So first thing is mouth, speech, and water. Second divinity is the nostrils and breathing. An air element or Vayu Bhuta, a touch and skin are associated in that particular concept. You will breathe through the nose, and nose has given the smell as well as Vayu as such. Third divinity is eyes and sight. Now we are talking about the 5 senses itself to start with. First of 5 senses. Taste, now eyes, and also the smell. And third is the fire element. You had water element, you had air element, now the fire element. Fourth you go is hearing, is the 5th element of Shruti or the Akash, from which the sound comes, and that is what direct hearing is all about. Ears can hear directly even from universal consciousness, and Vedas are considered to be Shruti, directly heard sounds, and then they converted into Sanskrit and given the world in a classical form. So now 4 divinities we have spoken about it. Now comes the 5th divinity is the hair, skin, plant and trees. This is where Prithvi element comes to play and is touch, skin and smell. And now these are first 5 are the 5 senses which are very clear. You have the touch, you have taste, you have smell, you have eyes, you have hearing. These are the 5 very clear. We all are made of Panchbhutas, made in Panch elements, are very clear in Aitreya Upanishad. First 5 are only sciences which we perceive the external world with. Now the 6th comes the heart, which is with the mind and the moon. And I am very clear The thinking capacity makes the human being as a perfect one. We can take the decision, and that can be felt in the heart. It is in the moon and other things very closely associated. And that is what Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Chandran are all together. Now come to the seventh is the navel apana out-breath expulsion. And this is where I am making it very clear here. When you talk of apana, it is something which is going out breath expulsion, just like passing urine, passing motion, passing menstruation, and other things from the body should be thrown out, is what apana is all about. Now I am making clear. It's apana which you can say navel, apana which throws it out. But normally when we talk of that, we talk of the urine passing, fecal matter and menstruation. But we do not talk anything beyond that. That is something which I have also been bringing very clear. When I say apana, we talk about it. But apana prana says this goes on in navel much more than other things. Eighth one is the generative organs. Human beings are born, so race has to be maintained. This is also called ancestral travel, and that is required. So every couple should get married, have a healthy life, good family, new generation for the world. That is eighth. So now 5 elements, then mind, expulsion, as well as reproduction are the 8 things very clear, and I think it's a wonderful classification by any standard. Now come to this particular stage of the 4H is seen in first trimester of pregnancy. You have 8 divinities are developed. So what happens? Sperm and ovum together from zygote, then they take rest for 1.5 days, and then binary division starts. 1 becomes 2, 4, 8, 16 other thing, and how it develops. And this development is shown in the first 3 months to come to a stage where all the divinities, 8 divinities can be seen in the fetus which is growing. So here is preparing the fetal body with 8 perceptions which are required for the soul to be seen. All these organs which I am talking about all are developed within first 3 months itself. Maybe you can call it 12 weeks, 11 to 12 weeks. Now the cosmic Purushas, the second 2 A's are. The 8 divinities fell into the ocean. Now comes the question of new element. These 8 divinities which are created, they were thrown into the ocean. So if you use the word ocean, that means they are talking about something God sent into the ocean. This is one thing which I'll explain to you as we move on. The soul subjected the person to hunger and thirst. Once this particular soul is formed, it wants something to be eaten. It is hungry, it is thirsty, it wants something to eat. Person wanted the soul to find a space, a shape, source where the divinities could eat food, water, etc. This is a question which comes up. Soul subject to hunger and thirst, and soul wanted to find a space into which they could eat food, and is talking about the 8 divinities, whether they can be used for receiving the food for the body itself. 8 things are very clear. Now 8 of the one, how they can be used to get the food for sustaining the body thereafter. One of the 8 is going to be used, not all the 8. Now let's understand which is understood, which Aitreya Upanishad is talking about. Now comes the question is, soul who is going to eat? That means it was unidentified body, they had no definition of what the form is going to take. Fetus at that stage is going to the stage in 11 to 12 weeks, and then the shape is going to take place. So what shape to give it? The first soul brought a gentle cow for the person. Let's make it like a gentle cow. The person refused the soul, refused the cow. The cow is not right for us. This is not something, this is in the animal kingdom, is something not for the person who is going to be Lok Palan. So that is very interesting. Cow is too gentle and too thin, cannot have the think and mind to develop into that stage. So then soul brought, and I'm talking about universal soul, brought 5 horsepower horse, and person refused the soul, again the body unidentified said this is also not ideal to be a Lok Palan. The horse is not right for us. I think that is very interesting. Cow is not ideal the shape, nor is the horse, which is more powerful, to be the ideal, because both do not have the power to be in tune with universal consciousness. This is emerging. We need the mind from intelligent intuition to the higher level. Then question comes up, then the soul brought a human form, human being as the growth. The divinity said, well done. 8 of them said, excellent. This is a shape which can take the thing to very high level. It can be perfect being, and it can be a Lok Palan, custodian, guardians of the world, and that's the ideal form to be developed now for the second trimester, and that enters the soul as such. Now 8 cosmic powers, which is section 2.4, fire became speech. Now the 5 elements, you're going to see how they get. Fire Agni element becomes speech, enters the mouth. Vayu element, air becomes the breath, breathing, and enters the nostrils. Sun becomes the sight and enters the eyes. Space becomes the hearing and enters the earth. And plant and trees become hair and other. These are 5 Panchbhutas, Panch Tattvas, very clear in the first 5 itself. Then the moon became the mind and entered the heart. Now it's very clear, body has 5 elements. Now moon is in the heart and the mind. That is something more than the 5 senses can do. That means mind is after the 5 senses. Indriya, Gyan, then mind is the interpretation, thinking, other thing going on. So that heart has the perception to become better and better. It's the best reflection of thinking process, where brain and heart go hand in hand. That person would have a perfect thing. If there is thinking, it could be sympathetic. Once having realized, it will be in alpha stage. That is what happened. Death became Apana Prana and entered the navel. Now comes Apana is to throw. Now I am using word prana along with Apana. It enters the navel, and then this is when death goes, prana goes out. That's why I am bringing Apana Prana. So prana goes out at the time of death, and it had entered the navel. The water became the semen and entered the testes, and also the male and female are reproductive system. I think 8 are very clear. 5 senses, mind, thinking capacity, death, as well as procreation. So I think any intelligent mind, logically, this is phenomenal. Now there comes all these things which I have spoken about is found in the second trimester alone. Now 8 divinities enter the respective organs like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right up to maybe 22 or 23 feet, and I would say 22 to 23 or 24 also. It's very clear. First 11 to 12 and then next 11 to 12. Very clear. Now comes the next stage. Section 2 of 5. We had 4. Hunger and thirst told the soul, please find us the abode of entry, how the food is going to get into these particular 8 divinities. You find that center. Soul told the hunger and thirst, I assign you a place in these 8 divinities. Please make sure that you share with them. You share with all the 8. After that, hunger became the participants. And now how the food is going to be entered into 8 things, that is what is going to be understood in the cosmic powers in the chapter 1 of section 2 to 5. First thing, the soul thought, here are the guardians of the world, let me create food from the guardian. That means atom, element, molecules and other things would be converted into food form in the plant kingdom. And that is the first thought. Second, soul brooded over the water, and water produced the issue a form where whatever is produced a form was food. Every life product was produced with water, and that is what clear. And it's the plant kingdom which is the first. Mineral kingdom to plant kingdom and the water, these are the first things which are very, very important. And as I say, water content at 61.803% is the perfect. If you can maintain that throughout your life, you'll have no problem whatsoever, because water falls down as we grow. But if you maintain with regular taking water as we grow older, you are going to be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy. And there is no biological life possible without water is also a statement. That's why I call it Amrit. Amrit is not defined another thing, but I know Amrit is water. It is what survives. That's the reason anyone accident, otherwise it's a glucose, water, sodium is given as a survival, and that is what I said in adrenal gland also. Mineral corticoid, that is required. Now there comes the next stage. The soul disappeared from the body. Now first soul was there. Now soul has left the body. The human being, now the form which is formed, this soul is not there. Now the form has started forming with the speech by itself. The human being was not able to see the food. Human beings can enjoy food with speech. Human beings can fully be satisfied by speech, but cannot receive the food with the speech. And I think that's the first statement. Soul is not there, but the food by that is not getting because it hasn't got everything as such. Then comes the question of breath. Breath can experience it, feel it and enjoy it, but cannot receive the food for the body. Both cannot. Nose can get, you can experience, enjoy the food, nice taste, smell, etc. But you cannot really and take it inside through the nose. Now there comes the eyes. Eyes can see the food, enjoy the food, colors, etc., etc. But eyes cannot really take the food inside. I think that was the third thing, very, very important. You can experience, you can see it, but you cannot receive. Then comes the hearing part or the ears part. Ears can hear, you can see the sound of food and otherwise, but cannot receive from the body. And that is, I think, is excellent to say this element is not there for receiving the food for sustaining the fetus for the rest of the life. As simple. Even with the hearing, we can enjoy the food, we can be satisfied. Oh, lovely. This is one of the expressions in the Panchbhutas. Very true. Then comes the skin. Skin is a touch. You can feel that food with the hand, touch and otherwise. You can enjoy how beautiful, soft, gentle, lovely. But skin cannot take the food inside. I think these five senses, very clear, cannot take the food inside at all. I think that is an interesting question. Then comes the sixth. Person sought the food with the mind. He was able to see the food with his mind. Even with the mind we can enjoy the food. But we cannot be satisfied the mind of the food because it cannot take the food inside by the mind. This is an instrument of perception. It is not an instrument to receive food for survival. I think that is again very important. Heart, mind, skin cannot do. So all the six cannot do. Then instead of apana is brought reproductive system. Seventh, it changed from eighth has been become seventh. Person sought the food with the generative organs, not able to see the food with the generative organs. Even with the emission, we can enjoy the food, but we cannot be satisfied the food with emission. We cannot really enjoy or receive the food through reproductive organs at all. I think that is phenomenal. All the seven things we have spoken about it. Food can be tasted, smelt and otherwise felt, experienced, but cannot be received for the survival of the fetus, which is Lok Palan. Seven are over. Then there comes apana, the out-breath. The fact no one else can explain the apana's secret. Now comes the question when this particular statement in Aitreya Upanishad is what apana. And Every author on the whole about Aitreya Upanishad has not explained what is apana, how can apana receive the food. This concept has not been explained by anyone on the earth, because they did not understand what apana is actually about. Because they think when perception which is throwing out, how can throwing out thing receive it? Whereas other things can not receive it is true. But throwing things cannot receive. That is where the beauty of Aitreya Upanishad is. That is what I say. Rishi Aitreya, who talked about Aitreya Upanishad in such a form, has given the form of Rigved into Aitreya Upanishad to make you think. If you are a Lok Palan, you would have it. If you are not Lok Palan and you are only copycat, then you cannot understand. So here comes my perception as a Shiv Bhushan Sharma. Apana is a cosmic Purusha, is the umbilical cord. It's a knot through which fecal matter is going to go, like anus or urine or menstrual cord. This is very specific. This apana prana is umbilical cord only. This is a bridge between the fetus, placenta and the mother. This is very clear. It talked about umbilical cord. It did not talk of matter which you see in human forms otherwise. So this cosmic Purusha is not the spontaneous production of the cosmic Purusha. This is the growing fetus inside the mother, which Lok Palan is talking about. Because Lok Palan, whose growing fetus in the mother's womb, receives everything from placenta and the mother only through the umbilical cord. Everything from the body is thrown out by the umbilical cord and received by the umbilical cord. This is the most beautiful part of Aitreya Upanishad. That the greatest hidden wisdom, I think I am glad that I have been able to do it. And having done that, I am bringing it to this. This is the beauty of this particular thing. And once that is understood, only then we'll be able to understand the Sanskrit scriptures of Veds, Upanishads and scriptures, because wisdom is there. But it has the intelligent high concentration, contemplation and manipulation of the universal divine energy, which can take place within human mind, in the brain as such. Now there comes the question. The person saw the food with apana. Apana is external going. He was able to see the food with apana. The statement is very clear. This food for survival, maintenance, could be received through prana, apana only, not anything else. Graspable food is apana. The person survives for the rest of their life. This is a hidden divine secret which has not been explored, explained by any other person other than the author by and large in his books. Now comes the soul thought. How can food exist without the soul? Now food has got, now the is ready. Now comes the soul entry of aditi or prana as such. The divinity is designed and created for many different functions of the body. Who am I? And that means soul will give you the real, that I am the divinity by and large, I am Lok Palan. That only human beings can do it, not other beings, because they do not have the soul which is going to enter now once again. Aditi, prana and apana prana would become thereafter. Then comes the question of, after opening the top end of the head, is very clear in that the soul entered the human being. The end is called Vitri, at the pleasing end. There are 3 body abodes, and this is 22 weeks when this picture soul enters into the growing fetus, and that's it. Now there comes the question of section. The human beings was born. Soul saw the delivery of the human being. He perceived the human as a Brahman. I have seen the Brahman birth. That means the person who is born now is a Brahman. He can be in tune with Nirankar Nirgun Brahman, Sakar Sargun Brahman, Anubhav Brahman, or the entire universe. This Brahman can be the perfect one to give you the divine mathematics A to Z completely. And that is the cosmic Purusha, that is the Lok Palan, that is Custodian, that is the Guardian. Now all these things are very clear in 3rd semester. By the time you come to this stage, the child is perfect, like going to be the creator for the world. 7th, 8th and 9th. So 11 to 12, 11 to 12, 11 to 12. By the time you come to this stage, you have come to the 10th month and is going to be delivered. Now come to the question. The name of the human being is Idrandra. This is a perfect integrated human being. That's what Pindand Brahman is again. Now I make it very clear. This human form in this particular thing, along with the soul, is a perfect being to be in tune with universal consciousness. They are exactly identical. They are the one can perceive the entire universe within the human body through the medium of the soul, which is Antaratma, which is Prana, which is Kundalini, which is Aditi, by and large. Though that combination gives you also Aham Brahmasmi. I am like a god. But most of the people say human body is not important, and I say human body with Atma together as one is important, not otherwise. Only these two can be into the third one, which is universal consciousness. And that's it. It's only physical body of the human being, the whole universe can be experienced. And this is what the ocean is amniotic fluid. And these are the Panch Prana, which I am not going to talk about. This is Apana Prana, right at the bottom, which is with umbilical cord. Now the entry of the human soul comes at 21 weeks. Food is ready. But after 22nd, it can enter through the anterior fontanelle and get inside and transform the even genetic structure to the one which is perfect for that. Reincarnated who have done a lot of good work in earlier lives, when they are born with the Atma, which is enlightened, you are born Siddha by and large, and that's it. And then full brain develops in 21 years and cranial sutures close in 22 years later. I think that is again an important 22 by 21 is a very important concept in Divyank alone. Now Aitreya Upanishad replies this, and I have shown the whole thing, and I am glad Maharishi Aitreya has composed this, and Purusha was created by his concern Anusuya, and that is what the Tatriya is. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh were three brought into together by Anusuya as the Tatriya. That is not I'm good. That was the concept which is there. Now with that we come to this particular stage. I think it's enough for the day. And once the beauty is understood, we'll understand how beautiful are Sanskrit Rig Veda, Sanskrit Aitreya Upanishad, and also Anusuya's concept, and how the Lok Palan can be in tuned unison. Only the Lok Palan in whom prana entered through apana has become, after many years of birth again and again, and given the world Devyank, and given this concept, because it's a continuous journey of learning for generation after generation, life death cycles. So that is where, but the effect of all the mind, perception, intuition, buddhi, which goes with the antaratma, which is helium, would continue to take the journey and make the body realize, because it is already seen around and this is there in the object, and that makes Aitreya Upanishad a perfect document, phenomenal in every way. I think that's enough for the time. Thank you very much.